Hi, I'm Brian Joyce, and welcome to the Senator Brian A. Joyce Report. So, in this show, we often bring you a variety of policymakers from Beacon Hill, folks that are impacting your life from the state level, but we also try to bring you some interesting folks that are making a meaningful district at the local level, particularly within the district that I have the pleasure of representing. I represent 10 towns in Norfolk, Bristol, and Plymouth counties. And actually the largest that I have the pleasure of representing is the town of Randolph. Randolph is perhaps the most diverse town in the state. I believe it's somewhere around 50% white, 50% non-white. It is a town that 3 or 4 years ago was facing an extraordinary series of challenges in terms of falling home values, increased crime. The schools were placed on probation, the high school accreditation, and since that time I've been telling people if Randolph was a stock, I'd be buying. There has been an extraordinary turnaround in this wonderful town, a town that I am really delighted to have the pleasure to work for on behalf of the 30,000+ folks that live there and those that work there as well. And I'll tell you some of the things that have really struck me. First, the crime rate is down dramatically. The form of government changed. Randolph had a largely dysfunctional form of government where it had disparate boards, each that was a separate fiefdom. There was no centralized control, so you couldn't have really centralized accountability. About now 2.5 years ago or so, the voters changed the form of government, and oh my gosh, is it working. The voters also invested in the town and reached into their own pockets to support a pretty significant Proposition 2.5 override. Let me tell you, that investment has paid off. In addition to wonderful things happening throughout the town, we have the downtown being totally revitalized. I helped play a part in that with state grants through the state. We're going to just provide a revitalized downtown that coincides with new zoning, but there's also an attraction of new business to town. Folks are discovering Randolph again. Things that were seen in the past as perhaps a negative are now accentuated as a positive. It's proximate to Boston. It's just a wonderful place to raise a family. But perhaps the most important thing that folks look at when they're deciding on what community they want to raise their family is the schools. And I'll tell you, there are some terrific things happening in the Randolph schools. And the person who's helping to make those positive changes is Dr. Oscar Santos, who's here with us today. And he is the local official who is making just an extraordinary difference in helping to improve this already wonderful town that is Randolph. And I asked him to join us to tell us a little bit about these successes we're seeing in the Randolph Public Schools. So welcome.
Oh, thank you, Senator Joyce.
I think that might have been the longest introduction I've ever done. I was trying to just impart upon people how incredibly impressed I am with really the great things that are happening in the town of Randolph. And it hit rock bottom a few years ago.
Yeah.
My gosh, it's rising. Sometimes perception lags reality. People don't realize just what an amazingly great town this is now, and really led by some of the changes that are taking place in the schools.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to you. I really do. And on behalf of the Randolph community, the town the town government, the town officials, the school committee, all of them wanted me to just make sure that we said thank you very much. Really appreciate the support that you provide. You really are a champion of Randolph. You're always there supporting the work that we're doing, and I appreciate the plug that you have really given us in terms of indicating that it really is a town on the rise, and we're really proud of that. And it's been because of the hard work that you've provided, the support that you've provided, as well as our town officials and our community. We really did, I would say, hit a low point about 5 years ago, and part of that, I believe, was that we were not focused on the importance of working together. And one of the things that we have really focused on, the school committee and the town council meet every 2 to 3 weeks to really address what are the issues that we can do to really be one Randolph. And that's not something that happens often, where you get the town council and the school committee to meet together to work to really talk about how are we supporting policies and practices to support.
So what's happened in most towns now, Braintree has changed their form of government, but all of the other towns they represent still have this selectmen as their exec. You know, the national level, you think of the executive branch as the president, and the state level, it's the governor. On the town level, it's the Board of Selectmen, except in Randolph, you have a town administrator or a town manager.
That's correct.
And in Braintree, they have a town mayor. And then the legislative branch in 8 towns is the town meeting, except Braintree and Randolph now are different. And then there is no corresponding judicial branch. But what's happening, as you correctly point out in Randolph, is the executive and the legislative, that is the town administrator and the town council, are working hand in glove with the schools and with all the departments, no longer separate silos, separate fiefdoms. Everybody's working toward a common goal, and it's working.
Yeah, we're really proud of that. I mean, we've actually coined the slogan, One Randolph, One Purpose, and it really is about getting our town and our community to work together to make sure that everyone's successful. And when we mean everyone, we really do mean everyone. As you mentioned, Randolph is one of the most diverse towns in Massachusetts. Actually,
I think it is the most diverse town.
It is.
And it's funny because I can remember 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when the composition of Randolph was changing. You know, there's fear of change and uncertainty and doubt, and yet now there's a growing realization. Hey, man, this diversity works pretty well in Brookline, and it works pretty well in you know, in some other communities, and it's now something it seems that people play to as a strength.
Yeah, I would say that it's not uncommon to change the change theory itself. It's really difficult for any community or any organization or just any group that really has a sudden shift. If you look at Randolph's demographics from 1993 to 2010, you're talking about doing an upside down. It was 80-20, now it's 50-50. You know, when you see such a huge shift in you know, 10 to 15 years, it really does take a lot of time for people to kind of realize what are we really trying to do here. And I would say that before it can get great, there really does need to be a little bit of a challenge. And I would say that 4 to 5 years ago, when we really were not at our best, that's when we realized that, okay, it is really time for us to work together.
You had closed the school, right?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Had you know, the high school was put on probation for its accreditation. I mean, things were looking pretty bleak, and yet now, tell me what's happening right now.
Well, I think what's happening right now is that the resurgence is continuing because there's a couple of key factors that I think are at play here. Our schools are improving. I want to, first of all, thank my predecessor, Dr. Silverman, who did a wonderful job. He was there from 2005 to 2010, and he came at one of the toughest points of our tenure in terms of a town. And part of that, I think, was the turnaround plan, getting some support from the state in terms of the state saying, these are the things that you really have to focus on. And to the credit of the community, not only did we say these were the things we had to focus on, we added other things. We made sure that we met together. We made sure that we extended learning time for students by adding kindergarten, full-day kindergarten to kids. We put forth a $5.5 million override. I mean, that's not easy to do in a tough economy.
So the average taxpayer in Randolph said, yes, I will support adding $500 annually to my tax bill.
That's right.
And a big portion of that went to the schools. I remember Dr. Silverman convened every single stakeholder. You know, I was involved, all the stakeholders in one room. And I think it was over at Lombardo's or something.
That's correct.
And said, you know, what can we do to turn this around? And really listened and had everybody have a stake in this turnaround. And the state got involved. The Department of Education, we brought in subject matter experts and took the best practices. And it's funny, one of the things that I saw, I remember the former police chief when there was a crime problem. Now, you know, this might come as a shocking revelation to the folks watching this in any one of the towns I represent. There's a gang problem in every single town. But there was an issue where a lot of towns didn't want to address it. Randolph immediately said, hey, we have a problem, and turned to the state for some support. Where there was an issue with the schools, people were very forthright and said, you know, we'd like to collaborate with the state level, the town level, with all citizens, have a partnership. And it was just such a refreshing approach.
Yeah.
And now it's reaping dividends.
Well, I got to tell you that I would say that if you're going to change anything, you have to really be able to be honest about the fact that there's a challenge and that there's a problem. And what I could say about Randolph, it's funny because you say you would buy stock in Randolph.
When I started saying that, if there were stock in Randolph,
yeah.
and I had been able to purchase it when I started saying that, I'd be a wealthy person now. And those tuition bills I'm paying for those college kids of mine would be a lot easier to, because since then, I'm telling you, Randolph's just gone like this.
It really has.
Every indicator. And if you're looking for a place to raise a family, or you have family members that might be thinking of relocating back to the area, take a hard look at Randolph. You have this, first, the location can't be beat, right?
It's the best location.
Proximate to all the major highways in the city of Boston. And it's still affordable, and it's all on the upswing. Test scores are up. Tell me a little bit about some of the good things that are happening in the schools.
Well,
you have full-day kindergarten?
We have full-day kindergarten. We're working on really extending time for our students as much as possible. What we're really proud of is the fact that we've gotten our teachers union to work with the administration. We actually have something that's called the collaborative leadership team. And our principals and our unions meet once a month, similar to the way the town and the town council and the school committee meet. We've actually drilled that down and said, okay, how do we get that down to our buildings? How do we get that down to our schools?
So
go ahead.
So this is just another example. I talk about that collaboration where everybody, it is one Randolph. It's a challenge facing all the cities and towns in the state right now, and all businesses and families, the rising healthcare costs, but a particular challenge for our communities. And Randolph is one of the first towns to have joined the state's insurance plan called the Group Insurance Commission.
That's right.
Which I think Dave Murphy, the very capable town administrator for Randolph, suggests is saving now 900 or 800 or maybe even $1 million.
A little bit more than that. Actually, maybe like $1.1 million.
In excess of $1 million a year. Couldn't have done that without the employees, including union employees, being part of this solution. And they were.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is creating a culture that if we work together, we can really get this done. So, as I mentioned in our schools, one of the things that I'm really proud of is, and this was mentioned in the recent article in the Globe South on Thursday, April 21st. It was
a great article.
It was a wonderful article, and it gives us a little bit of motivation as a community to realize, yes, we're being noticed. And while there's a lot to do, and we have a long way to go, it is nice to have what we call small benchmarks along the way. So when we look at the schools, one of the things that we're extremely excited about is we've just received a planning grant with the Nellie Mae Foundation, which maybe some people don't realize this. The Nellie Mae Foundation is the largest education foundation in the world. Provides incredible amount of resources, and they've provided us with a $200,000 planning grant to move towards student-centered learning. And what that really means is shifting the way we do schools, and what I can say basically in layman's term is moving away from what teachers do to really focusing on what students are doing, so that learning happens beyond the school day. Unfortunately, sometimes we look at schools as I'm here from 7:30 to 2:30 and then the learning stops. So it's really looking at how do we involve our community through public demand and public engagement to really say our students are learners 24 hours a day. When they're done at 2:30, how do we get them involved in the community? How do we get them involved in the new library project that we have, the teen center that we're trying to create? So that what you're really looking at is creating leadership as early as possible with what's happening in the schools in terms of the teaching and learning, and then applying it in our daily lives so that we can really be active and informed citizens. And what I'm really proud about is that there's only 7 school districts in the country that have received this grant. We're the only school district in the state of Massachusetts that received this grant. And the foundation is committed to a 8 to 10 year process of providing $9 to $15 million to really help us develop this form of student-centered learning, and really excited about it. If anybody is interested in coming and joining us on May 11th, we're going to be at Lantana's. We're going to have our student-centered learning launch, and it's going to be a great opportunity because what you're going to notice is that the launch is primarily taking place with students. This is a student-led event with families. Our approach to this has been, I think, a pretty great approach. We started thinking that there were going to be about 300 people, but then we realized that every single student has somebody that cares about their education. So we've asked every single student at the high school to bring 1 or 2 people that care about their education, that wants to help them become successful. And the outreach has been incredible. So we had to get a much larger venue than we were initially going to do this at Stetson Hall, which is a beautiful place, but really could not accommodate the capacity that we're expecting on May 11th.
So one of the things that we've seen is actually enrollment is up now.
That's correct.
Families that had the means that were taking their children out of the public schools now are coming back. And so the enrollment in the Randolph Public Schools, because of your recent successes, is up. You do have challenges that
we do.
Perhaps some other communities that I represent don't face. You have how many languages spoken in the Randolph schools?
Over 46 languages.
Over 40. Now, what percentage of the students come from non-native English-speaking households?
Well, this would be amazing if you really look at our demographic. To give you the exact number, I wouldn't be able to tell you, but this is what I can tell you is that 83% of our students in the Randolph schools are non-white. That is quite an amazing number. And we have students from all parts of Latin America, Haiti, many parts of Western Africa, and we also have some European students, and we have a large Vietnamese population, we have a Chinese population. When I'm telling you that we're a small United Nations, it really is. It's amazing. And you know, when you were talking about the fact that diversity is working, one of the things that I can tell you, Senator Joyce, is that young people have an incredible ability to teach older adults that it is working. And the reason why it's working in Randolph is, if you recall, I said that you know, this major integration began in the 1990s. These kids have all grown up together. So families, when they invite kids over to their houses, they see kids from all different countries. And when the families realize that this is working, they're saying, it's the best form of teaching and learning that takes place. And I think that we've kind of we've understood that. And that's why our students, really, our student leaders, and the work that we're doing really is about involving our community as much as possible.
So in addition to racial and ethnic diversity, there's a significant income diversity.
That's correct.
And so you have a lot of kids that are from families of pretty modest means.
That's correct.
So you have some challenges that may be, different from perhaps
like more
superintendent in a different school system.
I would agree with you.
So how much of your frame of reference, I guess, how much of how you tackle these challenges based on your own life?
Yeah.
So this guy here is, you came to this country at age 5?
Age 5, that's
from
correct.
the Dominican Republic?
That's correct.
Didn't speak English?
Not a word of English.
And so...
it's interesting because when I look at Randolph and I look at the Randolph schools, not only do I look at it as a personal opportunity to really, in many ways, pay back for the wonderful experience that I had through schools, but really to really embrace the reality that we live in a global society, and that when I look at the work of our students and I look at diversity, and really what I think about is inclusiveness, because the reality is that a community can be diverse. No one can argue whether a community is diverse. You just look at the population. But then you really think about, how do we move from a diverse community to an inclusive community where you're really involving everyone to be a part of the process. And that's really what, the reason why I bring that up is because I had that experience as a young person coming into a school district and into a school that was really, to me, at age 5, 6 years old, the most important thing that ever happened to me, really to have a first grade teacher support me, really help me, really understand that, really what you're going through is something that's called a state of anomie. I didn't know whether I was Latino, if I was American, my parents had divorced, and when you really have adults that can really say, wait a sec, this is what's really going on here. Let's focus on what really matters, which is teaching and learning and supporting you. You always take that with you, and you have that sense of urgency and a sense of commitment to really doing this work. And when I think about Randolph, I look at our wonderful young people, and I look at this whole idea of Booker T. Washington's quote: "Success is not measured from where you end up, but more so from where you started to where you ended up." And I really think about that, and I think about Randolph, and I think about our students. We have students who enter high school not knowing a word of English, and these kids are ending up going to Boston College, going to BU, Holy Cross. I'm talking about really doing great work, and that's not because obviously they had intelligence, but that is an incredible accomplishment to, in 4 years, go through an acculturation process, and then also to think differently in another language, and just to immerse yourself in a different culture. Talking about really what I would call almost omni-Americans. I don't know if the term exists, but you're really talking about young people who are really working hard to lead this work. Then when I think a little bit about the fact that we have families that come from various income levels, I have a small philosophy. It's very simple. It's get great and then grow. And our role in the schools is really to get great and to continue to grow. And families are starting to realize that we are providing we're working on providing extended learning time. We're looking at student-centered learning. We're really committed to the concept of opportunity to learn, which really means that we just don't believe that a student can fail. And we're going to support you, and we're going to provide the resources. And families are starting to get that message, and that's why I think that based on the work that has happened, I've been very fortunate that there was a great leadership team prior to my arrival that really has built the foundation for us to be able to continue to do the running.
Families in Randolph clearly have bought into this. And I remember working with your predecessor. We have a particular state grant that we fund every year now, which is to get families involved. And at the time, it was a pretty challenging, daunting task where a lot of these families where the parents may not have spoken English and didn't feel, I guess, as vested or as involved in the schools and their children. And so we've started this program, or you started this program a number of years ago. It's been very successful. And families, and really the whole community now is sharing in this Blue Devil success. We now see there'll be a new football field, a new track. There's just such, and you see the whole community coming together. And I'll throw a quote at you because you quoted Booker T. Washington. My wife's late father was, like you, a superintendent of schools. And I think down in New Jersey, his favorite quote came from G.K. Chesterton, where he said, "Education is simply the soul of society as it passes from one generation to another." And we see now, whether the parents or grandparents, whether they have children or grandchildren in the schools or not, everybody's rallying behind this resurgence, starting with the schools, but you also see it in public works. You see it in greater efficiency in town government. They're attracting businesses. They're trying new things. You see some, just different approaches, and it's wonderful. It reminds me, I want to say this because there's going to be a lot of folks in Randolph, I think, that watch this program. There was one gentle lady, Vera McPartland, who was, I'm not even sure just how old Vera was. She was like the Energizer Bunny.
She was 78.
78, and there probably wasn't a committee in town that she wasn't involved in, but every year I would go and at her request and address this PTO group, and then the heads of the various PTOs would meet together, and she was the ringleader. And Vera, I'm like, Vera, man, your kids are kind of beyond this. And yet she'd have me every year. I think she'd pull me by the ear if I didn't show up and address this group. And just that was a big loss. But it's people like Vera and their progeny that have made and will continue to make the effort to make Randolph continue to shine. I'll tell you, great things happening. You're also trying to extend the school day.
That's correct.
Get away from this agrarian calendar. The kids don't have to go home to work on the farm anymore?
Yeah, we are. Obviously, the farm is long gone. One of the things that we're really committed to is redefining the way we do school. And what I mean by that is that, again, it goes back to this model of student-centered learning. Learning doesn't happen just from 7:30 to 2:30. And it shouldn't just happen from September to June. The reality is that all the research shows that when you take students and you give them a 3-month break, it just doesn't work. We're really looking at the idea of having year-round schooling in terms of having breaks that are probably 2 weeks after every quarter, so that learning does not dissipate and that students are able to stay more consistent. We're also looking to extend time on learning, and that's this concept of opportunity to learn in terms of when students need more time and support, you actually put it forth. And what's been wonderful is that our students have bought into this. We started with our high school students, the Student Advisory Council, actually, which you had some of our students at the State House, Day on the Hill. By the way, they were so impressed and really so appreciative of you walking them around and discussing with them. They really appreciated it. They did a survey and they found out that over 75% of the kids believe that they want extended learning time at the high school. So for everybody out there who thinks that kids don't want to be in school, when you make it engaging and you make it interesting, they want to be there. They don't even want to leave. And they're really committed to this concept. And one of the things that we're doing, again, is working with our teacher union to really say, if we're going to be successful, we're going to have to try different things. And we're going to have to, there's only a certain level of success that you can get at by doing something differently. We've done some things differently, and it's gotten us to a certain point. We realize that in order to take it to the next level, we're going to have to do some things differently. And one of the things that we're committed to is this concept of extended learning time through opportunity opportunity to learn.
So the definition of idiocy is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, right?
That's right.
So if it wasn't working, let's try some new things. I
Yeah.
watched a guy on TV the other night, a very dynamic leader, a guy named Jeff Bezos, he's the CEO of Amazon.com, wildly successful company. And he talked about one of the shortcomings of leaders today, whether it's business leaders, political leaders, is the fear of taking chances for fear of failure. And so he talked a little bit about the opportunity cost to society where everybody's too cautious to take chances. You're taking some chances and you're trying some new programs, and look, it's paying off.
Yeah. Well, it's at the end of the day, you have to have this, you have to have this mindset that you're not going to get everything right. And that when you fail, that's okay. That's actually a good time to say, what can we learn from that, and then how do we do that better? And that's something unfortunately, that doesn't happen a lot, in businesses. It doesn't happen a lot in schools. I mean, sometimes we look at students and say, this kid didn't get it, you failed. It's like, well, think about it. I mean, that's not really helpful. When you can look at it and say, okay, you didn't get these things, and this, so what did you learn from that? Now, that's a great learning experience. I mean, I even think about it, in terms of parenting. When you tell your son or daughter you did a great job, I mean, they don't want to hear that. They want to hear what you did great at. They want to say, I really like the way that you spent time on this. I really like the way that you worked at it. I like the questions you asked, because that's real feedback. And I think that motivates people to really say, okay, that was helpful. Somebody was actually paying attention, as opposed to great job or A+, or a little pat in the back when you're not really sure what that means. So one of the things that we're really committed to, a few things as a school district, is really providing clear feedback to our students. If you don't provide clear and consistent feedback, whether positive or, there's no such thing as negative feedback. Sometimes people view feedback as negative. It's how you go about it. It's this concept of this is what you didn't do well, and this is what we're going to do to help make sure that you get there. So we're really working on that, and we're drilling that down into the DNA of our schools. And if I know that if we can do that, there really will not be an achievement gap. So we're really excited about that. The other piece, I also wanted to say, I would be remiss if I didn't say what we call in Randolph the Joyce Grant, by the way. I don't know what they call it in other places, but has been incredibly...
They don't get it in other places.
Oh, I apologize. Well, one of the things, I just want to say thank you very much for supporting us in terms of helping us to get community development and community support. And part of that is it's absolutely critical. We've actually extended the work that we've done now. We have a Family Leadership Academy. And what that is family members. It's kind of like a parent association to support other parents. The Family Leadership Academy is families helping other families understand the process of how to be more successful in school, how to advocate for yourself. We have kind of like working on a parent playbook, so that it's built by parents, so that parents can actually get that parent playbook to other family members. It's just it's this whole idea of really building things up from the bottom up, and we're committed to it. So we got a lot of work to do, but
well, let me just say first, in terms of the family playbook, parent playbook. My children wish that I had been given such a manual years ago, but
believe me, my kids will remind me about it all the time.
but we're going to wrap up. I just wanted people to know about all of the wonderful things happening in Randolph right now. Truly just an amazing turnaround, an incredible community, and a vibrant community that just continues to have more good things happen. And you noted, I should have mentioned, the Globe South, Boston Globe, had a wonderful article on just all the great things happening in this community. So the word's getting out, and I thought I'd get it out a little bit more. Congratulations on your good work in such a meaningful position where you can have an impact on a couple of thousand children's lives on a daily basis. You and the other dedicated teachers and administrators in the Randolph Public Schools, and as you correctly point out, the important role of the parents. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Keep up the good work. And,
really appreciate it.
So for folks, they can see that's where their tax dollars are going to help change the world, one child at a time.
That's right.
This is Brian Joyce. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed our show.